Hello, everybody. Hi, hi, hi. Thank you once again for joining me once again back here in the cauldron of madness. Please say hello in the chat if you're here. Otherwise, I think I'm just yelling into the void, which has clearly not stopped me in the past. We will get started with tonight's class momentarily. Hi, Quinn. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you. Hi, Eva. Nice to see you. Yay. The old farts are here. Oh, shit. It's Flowgrow. Come on now. Hi, Nova. Ah, the freaks come out at night. The freaks come out at night. Clearly. Hey, 7C Mystic. I know who you really are, but I won't give it away. I won't tell your secrets. We will get started with the stream. We've started the stream. In case you didn't notice, it's happening. Hi, Mary. Hi. Hi, Darlene. Yay. Oh my God. Everybody's here. Okay, now I'm actually gonna have to teach the class now. Shit. I was just gonna fake it for a little while. We will get started with the actual class very shortly. It's already 3 after. It's already 3 minutes after 7. Come on. My Aries rising can't handle it. Hi, Jen! Yay! Walpurgisnacht indeed. Ja. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Or Hecate, yeah. Hella yeah. Or Frau Hol, yeah. Okay. If this is your first time here, throw some yellow flowers in the chat, or throw some flowers in your chat. And if this is not your first time here, I don't know, throw some pink flowers in the chat. I just kind of want to see chat completely filled with flowers. Actually, is sort of where we're headed. Hey, Nikki. You know how it goes. Okay. Oh my gosh, you have an ancestor named Walpurga? Okay. Okay, watch out, everybody. Watch out. Woo! And in pours the flowers. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. See, this right here, right? 100% yes, mushrooms. 100% yes. The flowers of the psyche. Big fan of flowers, big fan of flowers. They are, of course, nature's genitals. So, why wouldn't we want to hang out with them? Okay, it's 7:05. Hey, Deborah. Yay. Hi. Nice to see you. I can't wait any longer. Okay. Okay. Here is the preamble. Hi, my name is Megan Angus. I've been doing this for far too long. I started teaching these classes in 2015. My hope with them kind of changes with season to season and year to year and apocalypse to apocalypse. But mostly, I hope these classes to be educational and enlightening and inspiring and invigorating. And it is my hope that they are useful to pagans and heathens and witches and Wiccans in terms of expanding our horizons and our understanding of the roots of our belief systems and spiritual practices, as well as I hope that it is connective for folks of all faiths, as well as atheists and agnostics, to see where science and myth and religion all kind of blur into each other, and humans have sort of been, puzzling through and telling these stories to each other for thousands and thousands of years. And it's really cool. And also, we get to participate in that. So right? let's do that. Current hair cut and do by the galactically famous Sky Nebula can be found on Instagram under Sky Nebula, and also creature cuts, or maybe voodoo. I can't remember now what they are. Whoops, I shouldn't have brought it. Well, anyways, hit me up. I'll send you their address. They are all up and down the west coast of America. So if you're wanting to get your hair done, check them out. Hit them up. Okay. What else do I need to say in this preamble before we actually get into the stuff? We are teaching these classes on ancestral Duwamish territory here in Seattle, Washington. Up here in the Puget Sound area, we have a group called Real Rent Duwamish that I encourage you to check out if you are not familiar with them. It is an opportunity for you to pay rent to the Duwamish one time or monthly, however you like, in their push to create funds and pull in funds to support their people, as well as support their efforts to gain federal recognition from the federal government, and perhaps get paid rent that they have been owed for quite some time. So Real Rent Duwamish, fabulous group. What else? I don't know. I do stuff. I'm around. I'm in the world. I have a podcast called Spinning the Wheel. I have a website. I have a blog. I like to write about tarot quite a bit. And you will find that tarot is going to be one of our methods of understanding our symbolism for this holiday. And I am teaching, in fact, I guess I should mention this. I'm teaching a 6-week Welcome to Tarot introduction. Tickets are on sale right now, and classes start May 2nd. And they will run to the beginning of June. I'll be doing some standalone workshops for tarot later in the year. And for Litha, I will be doing another one of these live streams here, meaning here in theory. But I will also be teaching a workshop at Cascadia Midsummer, which is a really cool pagan music festival that happens here in Washington every summer. And they are releasing some more tickets in a couple of days on the 29th. So if you haven't gotten tickets for that, you might check it out. It's going to be a lot of really great presenters, as well as a boatload of incredible music. All right, that's that. And last promo that I have, if you didn't notice, there is paid promotion signaling somewhere on this video or live stream, whatever. And that's because the folks at Sea Witch Botanicals reached out to me and asked if I would like to do a little baby partnership with them. So I said yes. So they're promoting my stuff, which is cute. Thanks. And I have a code to share with you all, which is Spin the Wheel, all capital letters, 523. Spin the Wheel, 523. With every $10 or with a $10 order from Sea Witch Botanicals, you will get a free pack of Beltane incense. It's quite yummy. It features some of the flowers that we're going to talk about here in class. And I thought that was very cute. This code is good until June 23rd of 2023, somewhere in there. We may do this again. We'll see. But I know that this is an unusual thing for me. I kind of talk about how, like, I don't do ads on my podcasts and my videos and, blah, blah, blah. But this is a company that I legitimate have been buying products from for years. I love the products that they make. They seem to be a fairly ethical company from my levels of research. They really have gone above and beyond to pay living wages and be a company that's kind of at the forefront of setting the new standard for how corporations could do work in the world. And their incense is nearly smokeless, and so I love being able to recommend them as one of the very, very few brands that I know of that has a nearly smokeless incense. It's not smokeless, but it almost is compared to a lot of other types of incense. I believe they use all natural essential oils. I'm pretty sure that's part of why I liked them in the first place. And activated charcoal. They didn't ask me to say all of that stuff. I'm just saying it because I genuinely like them and kind of want to explain why I'm promoting them. So, so that's enough of that. That's all the ad space that they get. But yeah, spin the wheel 523 and you'll get a free pack of incense with a $10 order. Yay. Any plans for advanced classes for tarot professionals? No, I don't have any plans for that because I am keeping my secrets to myself. No, JK. I don't get asked for that very often, but if you want it, probably someone else does too. So perhaps I should do a little thing on my website or in my newsletter or whatever. I don't know. If you're watching this and you're interested in taking some advanced classes, send me an email and tell me the types of things that you would hope to find in an advanced tarot professional class. And I'll see if it's something I feel confident in teaching. Let's do it. Let's figure it out. Yay, Darlene, I'm glad you like their stuff. Yay, Jen, I'm glad that you like their stuff too. Yeah, it is good stuff. I think one of my favorite, again, no more airtime for these guys, but I think one of my favorite scents from them is Hermitage. No. Hermitage is really good, but Green Fairy. It is the truest absinthe / fennel smell I've ever smelled in an incense in my entire life. It's incredible. I love it. I love it. It's really, really good. But yeah, okay. That's all the stuff. Let's officially start the Beltane 2023 class. Okay. Beltane 2023. We have fucking made it. Hi. We've lived at least to here. So good job, everyone. Good Lord. Woo. So, I'm going to talk. All right. I'm just going to do it. Actually, I'm just going to do it. Okay. What are we doing here at Beltane? First and foremost, let's take a look at Ye Old Wheel. These wheels were created by Ryan Jack Allred. Excellent illustrator. Go check him out if you and bug him to do some illustration work for you and pay him in advance and then just leave him alone so he can do the work. All illustrators everywhere know what I'm talking about. So what are we doing here? There's our Sabbath sign. And it is very indicative of the kind of stuff that we are doing. We are coming up. We are poking up. We are shooting up. We are heading up. Beltane season is all about the energy flow moving into a shape that I often use the word thrust to describe, or for those of you who have been with me for a long time, hashtag healthy, lusty, thrusty. Beltane is a season of this, of swelling, of turgidness, of puffed up, of rising, of ascending, of elevating, erecting. That is what's up. And I know that a lot of those words are words that maybe in your world are often associated with a specific gender or a specific genitalia. And that is certainly something that we see a lot of throughout time. But for those of you who've been with me, say it with me. This stuff is not locked into one gender. So this is an energy form that, in my opinion, all humans have access to, and really kind of a responsibility to summon and manifest in one way or another in their environment. Pushing up the signs that we use for the Sabbats. I've talked about this for years. I've used them with these classes for years. I don't know where they're from. I would love to know where they're from. If you know where they're from, please show me the route. But to me, this looks like an oxtail, but it also looks like a sprig of something coming up out of the ground, like a baby tree or a baby corn stalk or a baby bean sprout, that's or not bean sprouts, but like, bean vines. I can see a lot of different plant forms in this, a horsetail, all of that sort of stuff. And I think it's very, very indicative of the kind of energy that we are moving into in this season. So to break that down a little bit, virility and fertility, bringing polarities together, rites of passage, divination, protection, opening and restoring paths of exchange. So if we're going to go traditional, we're going to use words like virility and fertility, or fertility and virility. These are often words that we find in the binary, but they don't have to be locked into that paradigm. These are, again, as I said before, with the thrustiness of Beltane, fertility and virility are energies that any human can possess. And here is a place where we see a continuation of the overall energy of spring, but a shifting of that energy from Ostara into Beltane. And that is, in spring, there is a general, in the Northern Hemisphere, I should say, there is a general sense of things waking up, things returning from the lands of the dead, things beginning to come to life, come back to life, grow, increase in size, gain color, begin to show off fruit or flowers first, then fruit, etc., right? So we're going from a place of dormancy into a place of, some sort of visual indicator of life and movement. That's springtime. And then as we head towards summer, obviously. In Ostara season, the big focus is on the land itself and animals. We're seeing a lot of animals go into their mating season at the very end of winter, and so by the beginning of spring, there's a lot of animals that are already doing their thing, giving birth to babies. And it's sort of the land itself that we're witnessing, the snow melt and the plants become revealed again, the earth itself become revealed again, and like the light is slowly coming back and all of that stuff. And so that fertility, virility thing, that like kind of energy that comes with spring is really manifested in plant and animal type stuff in Ostara season. Then when we move into Beltane season, that begins to wake up in a more specific way in humans, and is represented more so in humans in our ritual forms that we engage in Beltane versus the ritual forms we engage in Ostara season. And so one of those ritual forms is bringing polarities together, bringing things that are in opposition to each other together. And again, we don't have to be stuck in a binary paradigm to think about polarities. You can have something with a million different aspects to it. 2 points of it will be in opposition somewhere, and those things are coming together in this time of year. One of the ways that we see that is in some of the cultures, or some of the cultural practices, in fact, a lot of the cultural practices of Beltane. Like, do I want to do that right now? Am I going to those slides right now? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so bonfires, first and foremost. Bonfires. Let me see if I have my notes in front of me. I was all over the place today, and honestly, the last few weeks have been a little wild. this this particular season has definitely kicked my ass. This solar eclipse season. No, I don't have it. All right. So, Beltane fires, very, very big deal. And Beltane fires would be started as what is called a need fire. A need fire is a fire that is started through friction. And that was very, very important to the cultures that were celebrating Beltane back in the day. That the Beltane fires were started with friction, two things rubbing up against each other and producing some kind of life, some kind of spark, some kind of a heat. Also, the Beltane fires would have been built out of the 9 sacred woods that we see featured in a lot of the not a lot, but a few of the different Sabbats throughout the year. You've got alder and yew and hawthorn and oak and ash and etc. etc. I'm mad that I don't have it written down. Sorry, but there would have been those 9 sacred woods brought together for this fire. And so a holiness, right, to the fire, but also this idea of friction starting the fire. And that's just one of the many polarity things that we see at Beltane. Another one that we see, which is also this fertility virility vibe, is the sacred coupling of many, many, many of the great god goddess couple pantheons within the various pantheons of the world. In Ostara, we do see coupling happening between gods and goddesses or deities, regardless of gender. But again, their coupling is like very symbolic. It's very ritualistic. And it's very focused on the waking up of the land, the waking up of water sources, like the waking up of Earth itself. And then all through April, like all through March and April, there is this, wake up the Earth. Yay, Earth, 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 Earth. Then we hit Beltane, and those sacred couplings, again, regardless of gender, we see a lot of pan-gendered and non-gendered deities showing up at Beltane. So everybody's changing shape and, doing whatever they need to do whatever they need to do. Again, a lot of that sacred coupling becomes much more human-oriented and much more overtly erotic, much more overtly about humans having sex or sensual contact with each other. So, bringing polarities together, that stuff. And again, we're not worried about gender here. On that note, we see a lot of rites of passage. We see a lot of rites of passage throughout spring. But again, the rites of passage begin to mature as we move through the season. So young people might be initiated into things at Ostara that are just like, hey, welcome to magical practice, or welcome to having more responsibilities around the house, or even, welcome to a puberty age thing or a gender shift age thing where you started growing hair somewhere or something along those lines. The Beltane rites of passage are much more about you are leaving childhood and becoming an adult. And so you are ready for even more mature stuff. And obviously this would be for people who are actually going through that transition in their life. We're not pressing that work on people where it's not appropriate. But we are honoring people who are ready to step through that door and say, I'm no longer a kid, I'm an adult, and I'm ready to find out about adult stuff. So those types of rites of passage are also really important here. And because of that shifting, because of that initiatory element, and because this is, of course, the heart of the planting season for a lot of places around the planet in the Northern Hemisphere, divination and protection also are becoming really, really important. Hey, Flo, thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Alder ash, holly, birch, hawthorn, oak, hazel, willow, and one more. And it's gonna drive me nuts until I remember what it is. But yay, well done, well done. So, because we're changing shapes and because we're walking through this gate of initiation and because we're in this moment where what we are planting and, the seeds that we plant now are the things that we are going to harvest or not harvest later in the year, divination and protection are at the fore of a lot of the rituals that we see in Beltane. Tangent, side note, many cultures that we would think of as pagans or heathens back in the day only celebrated 2 or 3 or 4 of the Sabbats that we now collectively celebrate 8 of in the modern practice of the Wheel of the Year. This is really important to understanding why certain Sabbats feel more important than, well, I don't even want to say it that way, but seem to get more emphasis than others, or why there might be, I think you're right, I think it is Rowan. Oh, okay. All right. I gotta stay focused. But there's it's important to understand that not all cultures celebrated all 8. And I've talked about that in other classes, and I kind of bring it up from time to time just to remind us all that this is a modern construction for modern pagans. Nothing wrong with it. All humans have invented all of the holidays, so it's okay to continue inventing them and reimagining them, I think. But I think it's also cool to understand our history. So, here we are, foot in both worlds. But not all cultures celebrated all 8 of the Sabbats, which I have said multiple times now. But Beltane is one of the ones that just about every single pagan group celebrated. And it wasn't always exactly on May 1st. We've got a couple of different dates, but they all kind of come after the sun has moved into Taurus, is one of the big markers. After the sun has had a heliacal rising with the star Aldebaran, I believe. After there has been a new moon in Taurus. Those are all kind of time markers, place markers of okay, it's Beltane season now. And like a lot of different Sabbats, but especially the cross-quarter holidays, or the greater Sabbats as some groups refer to them, Beltane was one of those times that was definitely not all celebrated in a single night. It was multiple nights and days, and potentially weeks long festival of sort of hey. But we couldn't take too much time away to frolic in the bushes because it is planting season, so stuff's got to get done. But my big point here is this. See, told you, tangent. We're back. It's this. That Beltane is one of the ones that was a great earmarker of opening up the bright half of the year, or the solar half of the year, or the overworld half of the year. And so this was really epic, right? For a lot of folks, it was this feeling of, we're going into a different world. We're going into this, the other half of the year, the other half of the wheel, the other half of reality. And, there's some conjecture on the idea of working with the phrase thinning of the veil, or moving through the veil, that we are in the midst of magic at all times. There is no over there. But be that as it may, however it is that we envision our paradigm, there is something here that's transitory. There's something here that feels like we're passing through a gateway, or that we are moving from this to this, that something's shifting, something's different. And so practices of divination and protection were paramount during this season to protect cattle, to protect the seeds and these baby plants that were going into the ground, that were the basis of whatever is going to happen for this next solar cycle, right? Because again, whatever it is that we're planting now at Beltane and whatever conditions they are in are the things that we're going to be harvesting 6-7 months from now when it's harvest season. And we'll talk about that again a little bit more in deeper into the class when we get into our astrology. So divination practices abound at this time of year, protection rites. And so, if I don't mention it later, let me mention it now because I do forget things in my old age. This is a great season for refreshing any kind of protection wards that you might have on your body, your physical body and your health, your physical house and whatever land you are responsible for, your pets / livestock, and your money. Or whatever it is that you think of as your wealth, your riches, your whatever. This is a great time for refreshing any kind of protection or warding or, sealing up of magics that you might have on that stuff. Okay. There's a time later in the class I should mention that, but you know how it is. The cauldron. It bubbles deep sometimes. All right. Last but not least, opening and restoring paths of exchange. As we move through Beltane season, we move through the sign of Taurus, and then we move into the sign of Gemini. Don't forget, Beltane is 2 signs long. And in fact, we are 10-ish days into Taurus when we celebrate Beltane on its modern traditional day. And so then we run out the rest of Taurus, and then we've got all of Gemini before we hit Litha season. And so opening and restoring paths of exchange really speaks to the nature of Taurus energy and Gemini energy in this season, where we are building stuff, we're making things, we're crafting, we're producing, and then we're going out into the world and we are exchanging that stuff with people. Whether the things that we're crafting and producing are data, art, tools, food, clothing, music, whatever it is, we're making it and then we're exchanging it with other people. And that idea of exchange also is another type of friction, right? There's this passing back and forth of me and you and this stuff. And what happens when you and I pass back and forth and we exchange our stuff with each other? What gets lit up with that? That's a metaphor that and a visualization we can work with in the midst of Gemini season. Hell yes, absolutely. Okay, so moving forward, our global themes. Do I want to get into that yet? Are we done with the parts of the things of the stuff? I have some other stuff. Yeah, okay, whatever. Whatever. Oh yeah, okay, here. Really? I think my slides are out of order. There we go. See, I've bugged myself out. Or I've taught this class enough times and I'm like, what's up? Honestly, it's a miracle that we're even here. Mercury retrograde has just like slash maybe I'm just falling apart and I'm blaming it on the astrology, but get out of here. All right. Other names for this holiday: Walpurgisnacht, Hexenacht, Feast of the Sacred Marriage, Kallen Mai, Kallen Haf, May Day, Rodanitza, La Beltane, and La Beltane. Okay, so these other names for this holiday touch into the granular elements of all of the stuff that we're talking about. We went through, we'll have to skip 2 slides. Oh my God. We went through our major themes. Let me break that down just a little bit more, and then we'll get into it in these names. Fertility, sexuality, union of energies, initiation into interpersonal mysteries. Huge. Love, The return of the passion and vitality that we will work with in summer. This is, in fact, the season that returns. The rites of passage, playing, spirit work, and divination. And so these other names that we find for this season, Walpurgisnacht, this is German. It's also Walpurgisnacht or Walpurgisnacht, aka Hexennacht. This is a night for witchy dealings in honor of Walpurga, the Teutonic mother goddess. There is some conjecture, not with me, but because I believe, but there is some conjecture as to whether Walpurga was actually really a goddess, or is this a modern fudging of things. I expect she probably was. There is a Saint Walpurga or Walburga that currently this night is named for, but it's like, get out of here with that. Every time we have a saint, we've got a goddess or a god right underneath them. And there, in fact, I have a slide here. This is a modern version, a modern illustration of Walburga or Walpurga. And we see a lot of really cool holy elements with her. She's got her runes with her. She's got this spiral staff with 3 goddesses on it. She has her distaff with her wool yet to be spun. Angelica flowers off of that. We have oak leaves below. She's spreading seeds, and she's standing in fire, as, lots of goddesses do. Was she real? Is she a modern invention? I think she probably was a real goddess, and we just need to dig a little deeper to try to find her. That's my bias. Hexennacht is another name for this night, and it's Witches' Night, or Hexen meaning magic, the night of magic, magic night. And this is kind of speaking back to how I was saying, sex, kind of a big deal. Sacred sex, of course, heros gamos, being some of the most powerful magic that we can do. And then we're also seeing all of that divinatory magic, protection magic. This was definitely really a night of like, we got to get out there and do our spell crafting and get our stuff done. Feast of the Sacred Marriage. This is hearkening back to all of the sacred knocking of boots that was aforementioned. Calan Mai or Calan Haf. These are Welsh names for this day. Am I lying? No, they are Welsh. Yay, go me and my memory. And these are actually rooted in Latin. These were names that were ultimately loaned from Romans when Rome was occupying the British Isles. Calan being a short word for the calendar or calends. Rodenitsa is another really incredible holiday, which I have more information about. We'll get to in just a second. It's also spelled Rudenitsa, Radanitsa. So you might look it up under a couple of different spellings, because not only will different websites use different spellings, but different regions use different spellings. And if you really want to dig in on the roots of this, the roots of Rudenitsa, definitely utilize some of the different spellings. I'm going to pause that and say this. All pertinent deity aspects are coming into their own power at this time, sitting in their seat of authority, grasping their will, and initiating themselves and each other into deeper levels of interpersonal exchange. And again, I keep saying that phrase, interpersonal exchange, and I can't stress how important it is. When I'm talking about that, as I mentioned before with Taurus moving into Gemini season, that idea of us and something or someone else coming up against each other and exchanging our stuff with each other. And what happens when that happens? We don't know. Remember, that's our spirit for spring. It's not just Ostara season, but it's our whole spirit for spring is we don't fucking know. We don't actually know what it's going to be like this time around. Even if I've rubbed up on you before, I don't know what's going to happen when I rub up on you this time. Or even if I've, heard that piece of music before, I've eaten that piece of food before, I don't know what's going to happen this time. And so that spirit is carrying through into this more mature level of curiosity that is in the heart of Beltane. Interpersonal exchange. Who knows what could come of it? Okay. No, I'm not done. See, I'm not done. I'm bouncing around a lot. I apologize. Or I don't. Whatever. enjoy. Enjoy the freak out. We're gonna go back to some of our other deities. Because I'm just kind of called to talk about them. Um, so, as we discussed, Walpurga, um, Hathor, a great bull goddess, carrying literally the sun in her horns and BD. So a provider, a producer, a doer. Green Tara, also a celebration of this vital, thrusting energy. Green Tara actually carries an energy that is like a blend of Aries and Taurus. There is a warrior element to Green Tara. There's a very stubborn element. There's a very grounded and rooted element, but there's also a really like protective and vibrant and fiery element, even though she's green. So she's very like of the earth and of the physical world and doing stuff, but also, ready to get in your face about it too. Perhaps you've heard of this deity, Earth, literally us. It's us. This is us. Hi. Hi. That's happening. And this is Astarte. This is or Ashtre, excuse me. Yeah, Green Tara, exactly. And you can see her holding her grains in her hands. She has this many layered or ribboned skirt here, bare feet on the ground. And some anthropologists, archaeologists think that when we see skirts decorated like this, that these are the rows being planted in the fields. Maybe. Could be. Kind of cool. But that's not all, folks, because we've got, oh yeah, that guy, the Green Man. And so, as much as the mother goddess, Earth, themself, is blooming and fecund and delicious and has all of this hoo 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 coming out everywhere, pink luscious petals of flowers flittering in the air and beautiful scents on the wind. The green one, the green man, the green one, is also 100% active, doing their thing, hanging out, wanting to show up, wanting to say hi, wanting to be turgid with you and yours. And so this entity is here as well. And if there ever was a season where perhaps God, quote unquote, God energy is more palpable than the goddess, I think it's probably at Beltane into Litha. And then it begins to fade again. And even in Litha, there's a really heavy duty goddess energy. But at Beltane, Randy Pan the Goat Boy. Like, okay. Actually, no, come on. This is a Roman mosaic in Istanbul, covered with the Green Man. Hi, I'm still here. I'm just moving things around on my screen. Green Man. This is a modern carving. This is a Green Man on the wall of a 2nd century Iraq ruin in Hatra. But Iraq, he gets around. He gets around, people. Oh yeah, one of the original Green Men. Osiris. That's right. Yes, Osiris. Often depicted with a green face. Not the only deity depicted with a green face, but one of the ones most frequently depicted with a green face. And that is a piece of color magic and visual vocabulary for us as we go through the ancient world. When do we see deities depicted with a green face or a green, like entirely green body or a mostly green outfit? They may have something to do with this Taurus, Beltane, I don't want to say Beltane specifically, but deep spring energy that Beltane also carries with it. Okay, so back to this. Um, Back to actually, let's go to this. No, we'll stay here. Okay. So in the global context, as we look around the globe and throughout time, we see cultures all over the Northern Hemisphere participating in rituals and festivals celebrating surging power, fertility, exchanging energy with opposing systems, aka sex and death, in alignment with this cross-quarter fire festival. And these are certainly the most popular, or the some of the longest standing versions of this pagan holiday, going backwards in time. So I'm going to bounce down here to Rodenitsa, which I started to talk about earlier. And Rodenitsa is the beginning of a festival complex called Grudi Rosno, which we find in Eastern Europe. It can be 10 days long, 2 weeks long, a lunar half cycle long, and kicked off with Rodenitsa for witches, shamans, soothsayers, and others to bless and cleanse their tools dedicated to the god Rod or Rude, a magician deity, but also a fertility deity, and part of one of the holy couplings that occur at this time of year in Slavic paganism. So this is kind of holding the tradition of things like Hexennacht and Walpurgisnacht, where there's this idea of like the witches, the magical people of the community, in whatever their role or their relationship with magic is, right? Because within the list of names that I have here, which is very short, witches, shamans, soothsayers, you have folks who might be mediums. You have folks who might be psychic. You have folks who might be healers. You have folks who might be doing ancestral work, doulas, whether that's birth or death. You might have folks that oversee rites of passage. You might have folks that, you know what I'm saying? Like, us magical practitioners take many, many forms, right? So this is a season of kind of acknowledging, first off, that our magical practices can take many, many forms and be utilized in a variety of ways to assist ourselves and our communities. And then this is also a moment of saying thanks to those people who walk that path. And it's a moment for the people who do that work to say thank you to their tools and their environments and their robes and their athames and their cauldrons and their staff and all of their tools that they utilize to do this work. Yes, I've heard that the most famous Valparga was a midwife and certainly a witch, right? That's a doula. Um, so, um, so this is one of the main holidays that we are focused with, or that kind of holds the energy of this holiday. Some of the other stuff that we have happening at this time of year, we have from our Roman friends and ancestors, Floralia, from our Hawaiian friends and ancestors, Lay Day, from our UK friends and ancestors, Garland Day. So we have this collection of all of these different holidays dedicated to flowers and dedicated to dun, 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 honoring goddess or goddesses or gods, really deities, as flowers, with flowers, but as flowers. This is like an honoring of the blooming earth as an entity in and of itself. Sweet and playful, dedicated to flowers and flowering plants and trees from the past and the present. Folks head out to nature, spruce up gardens, plant flowers, pick flowers, exchange flowers. And one of my favorite Beltane traditions is to take a scrap piece of paper and weave a small basket with a handle out of this scrap piece of paper, just cut strips and literally like weave the strips into a thing, tape the edges together, tape the bottom, use an extra long strip for the handle, you're done. And then go outside and pick some wildflowers and just randomly stuff them in these baskets and then hang them anonymously on your neighbor's doors or your friends' doors. If you can get into their building, if you live in the city. But it's one of the cutest things. And then also doing divination with wildflowers is very potent at this time of year. Going out May 1st, the morning of Beltane, and blotting your hands on the wildflowers and taking the dew, the morning dew, off of the flowers and pressing it to your face for like a blessing of inner beauty and outer beauty, whatever that means, and as a means of cleansing and protection as well. But all of these holidays, past and present, dedicated to honoring flowers themselves and honoring flowers as an expression of this energy that's blowing up everywhere. But also, hello, these are genitals. Hello. And so this is a very like not overt but overt way of saying like, woohoo, stuff is popping. We're getting it. Let's do this. Other holiday and holiday complexes that we see at this time: Mother's Day, Mothering Day from the UK, from US and UK, Earth Mother Day, Feast of the Three Mothers, Celebration of Tao, the Mother of the World. I think you get the idea. This whole season is filled with celebrations around the world, acknowledging the universal energy of motherhood. And how that is reflected in Beltane, to me, is, again, when we come back to that idea of what the energy is like in Ostara versus what the energy is like in Beltane. In Ostara, it's a lot sweeter, it's a lot more innocent, it's a lot more abstract. And then in Beltane, we are becoming mature, and we're becoming more mature, or we're becoming curious about more mature things, and our maturing curiosity for matured things. And for some of us, that may lead to motherhood, again, regardless of gender. That may lead to, I'm now in charge of seeing this thing through. I'm in charge of gestating this thing. That could be a flesh baby, as we say here in the classes, but it doesn't have to be. It can simply say, I have decided to take on this project and see it to completion. That could be a garden, that could be a song or a painting, a project at work, whatever. It can manifest in any form. But this whole time period is very much about maturing and going from I'm just playing at things to what does it feel like to choose to kind of commit to stuff? Because at Litha, we commit. We claim the thing that we're going to see through. We're not there yet there. Yes, gross, teenagers, exactly. We're still goofing off right now. Don't get me wrong. There's still hijinks aplenty. Shenanigans, if you speak, languages. Yes, no, hijinks, pranks, ridiculousness, goofy still. But our goofiness is maturing. And maturing as in we can get into riskier situations because we're old enough and supposedly know better. So, or we don't know better, but legally there's nothing they can do about it. So, however you want to interpret that. Don't go to jail because you saw something in my class, by the way. This is for entertainment purposes only. Hi, Patty. Did you pop in before and I just didn't see you? Okay. So our energy is changing in this season from our maiden energy that we talk about as modern pagans into whatever that mother energy is going to look like in the middle part of the year. So the honoring of that energy coming on is also something that we see a lot of around the planet at this time of year. Side note to the side note, there are Mother's Days literally all throughout the calendar year. So we do have a pile of them at this time of year, but they do occur throughout the year. Some of the other stuff that we might see at this time of year from our Greek friends and ancestors, Bendidia, from our Roman friends and ancestors, the Feast of Hercules Custos, from our Odinist friends and ancestors, Hengist's Day, And these are several different festivals in the latter half of Beltane as we move out of Taurus and into Gemini, celebrating athletic, androgynous, and competitive hunters, warriors, and merchants, especially those who appear in pairs. And um, uh, and this is an important shift in the energy as well. There is a union type of energy at the beginning of Taurus season slash Beltane season that is overtly erotic, that is overtly sexual, sensual, and not necessarily committed. Don't get me wrong, right? Beltane is well known for its greenwood marriages, Beltane marriages, which are a lovely night and a day, and that's literally it. Or it can be a time for hand fasting when you know that hand fasting is going to be good for a year and a day and not necessarily longer than that. But as we move through Taurus and into Gemini season, that that coupling thing changes into a slightly different shape, and where it starts to be more of a twinning thing. It starts to have a little bit more of a syncopation to it. It isn't necessarily about two opposite things rubbing up against each other. It's about two things that are very similar to each other, walking side by side or moving in union with each other. I keep saying the word union. Well, May Day, as in the International Day of Labor Solidarity, also happens at this time of year. And that's not by accident, I don't think. I don't think that's by accident, anyways. I think that is absolutely on purpose, because, what better time for unionizing than during the season of unions, right? Just saying. But also there is this energy at this time of year, the workers need bread and roses. And rose is the number one flower of Taurus and Beltane season. And there is an energy here about understanding how much labor it takes to make the world go around. And I don't mean the modern interpretation of that. I just mean us all having it nice. Everybody has some food, some medicine, a place to live, shoe, maybe two. And so there is something very magical to me about the idea that May Day is also May Day. And something pretty magical around the idea of our work being something that could, in fact, perhaps form a more perfect union. All right. That's enough of that. Enough of the leftist socialism talk. You knew it was coming, though. But yes, Bendidia, Feast of Hercules, there is this athletic vibe, very androgynous, very competitive. And again, it's two things that are very similar to each other, running side by side or walking side by side, and sort of competing with each other and testing each other and pushing each other to whatever the next level or layer is going to be of the stuff. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Here's our Taurus constellation. Yeah, right? I know, huh? I know. Here's Taurus, and how is it shaped? Just like a plow. Look, conspiracy theories are a kind of magic too. I just don't practice them very well. But anyways, Taurus constellation looks just like a plow. So there really is this sense of the union, again, of the plow pushing into the groove in the earth. And there are the two energies coming together that are going to ultimately produce life for us. In the constellation of Taurus, we have the fixed stars Aldebaran, which is the bullseye, Elnath, the budding, and then just above Taurus, we have the Pleiades. Um, and the Pleiades are the 6 or 7 sisters. They were 7 at one point, so clearly there was another collection of star or another star there that was much more visible at some point. But you can see compared to Aries how low the constellation of Taurus is, and that is because it is getting down to Earth. It is coming down to Earth to dig in and get the stuff done. Aldebaran, the bull's eye, definitely thought of as I mentioned before, one of the great time markers of Beltane season. If you had kind of lost where you were by this point in the calendar, you could just look for that heliacal rising, aka the sun rising with Aldebaran at the same time, to get a sense of like, oh, here we are in the wheel of the sky. Here we are in the calendar by the fixed stars. They're called fixed stars because they don't move. The constellations move in front of them. We don't have time. I'm not going to get into it. Just know that it's confusing. Um, but the Pleiades were referred to as seed stars by the Zuni indigenous people of Turtle Island, aka Native America, or North America, Native America, same. Yeah, so cool stuff. And then we're going to move into Gemini. And the constellations, if you notice, I've got west down here in this corner. I'm moving the mouse around like you can see it. I do this every time. You've got west down here in this corner. And then in the far corner, over there on the other side of your screen, we've got east, because that is in fact the angle that the constellations are moving across the sky. And they move, well, from your angle, they move this way. So that's why we have Taurus listed first, as it were, and then Gemini second, because they're going to move. Wait, they're going to move in this direction. Eternally baffled by this. Constant camera, opposite, there. I'm thrown every time, completely thrown. But we see, anyways, back to Gemini. We see Castor Pollux, those old farts. And we are going to talk a lot more about Gemini later in the season. Not so much in this class, because much of the vibe of Beltane itself really is centered in the vibes of Taurus. And in fact, for me, Gemini almost is like a transitory period that helps us change shape or adopt our mercurial nature. Hey, who's quick at the words there? All right. It helps us change shape out of whatever shape or shapes we have been in spring and into whatever shape or shapes we're going to be for summer season. And that's kind of what Gemini's job is for us. But again, as we move through the season, we have this like earthy thing of like, I'm humping and I'm making stuff happen. And then in Gemini, I got to rub up against that's like opposite me to make that friction thing go. And then Gemini is like, wait, I'm actually going to twin and like find, so we're going to, exactly. In Gemini season, we're going to find people that are more similar to us, and we're going to walk with them or test ourselves against them, or both. Someone did, in fact, say Mercury. I know, calm down. All the freaking Geminis in the chat, relax. Thank you. Relax. Okay, so this brings us to the Sky Guide. Boy, that writing is tiny, and I apologize. But here's where I get to pimp my stuff. If you want to join my Patreon, you will have access to all of the slides that I use in class, including the stuff that I'm probably not going to get to. You will have access to the workbook that I keep referring to. And you will have access to digital spells and playlists and other writings that come out for my patrons first and then come out on my website a year later or 6 months later or what have you. You can join right now. Everybody that joins at the $9 level, which is the Venus level and higher, gets access to the workbook and all of that other stuff that I just mentioned. And everybody that joins at the $5 and higher level, which is Mercury, gets access to the notes for the weekly podcast that I put out, which has links. The notes have links to the wide variety of things that I talk about each week in the podcast. So please, someone needs to rein me in. Please send an adult. Please send an adult. Okay. So, in this Beltane season, first off, let me read a little bit from the book for you. As the sun travels through Taurus, we begin to truly revel in the physical world, drinking it in. Focus moves from discovering our will, as we did in Aries season, to discovering the body, Taurus, and reveling in the beauty and wonder of the physical world. We begin to stabilize what we initiated at Ostara. Taurus is a fixed sign. I'm the adult. We are screwed. You will notice there are no seatbelts, so strap in and hold on. We begin to stabilize what we initiated at Ostara. Aries is a cardinal sign. It wants to start things. Taurus is a fixed sign, and it wants to stabilize things. So in Beltane, we are coming into a season where even though our behavior might be a little more mature, in terms of getting involved in some things that are a little trickier, or might have more consequences than the things we were getting involved in during Ostara season, there also is a little bit of a slowing down of the energy, where it's like, okay, let's just sit in this for a second and see what happens. That's what Taurus is really excited to do. Let's just gather delicious things around us and then just hang out with that for a while and eat and just sit here on this incredibly beautiful velvet couch in this immaculate garden. Let's just do that. And so in this season, we will have a new moon in Taurus and we will have a full moon in Scorpio. And this year, we have the end of eclipse season. Well, kind of we have a type of ending for eclipses happening in Beltane season. The lunar nodes have been in Beltane and Scorpio for the last 2.5-ish years. And the lunar nodes move backwards through the signs. So this year they are in the process of leaving Taurus and Scorpio and moving into Aries and Libra. We had a new moon solar eclipse on 4/19 with our second, weirdly, new moon in Aries at the very, very end of Ostara season. And then just hours later, the sun moved into Taurus. And so we are going to have our full moon in Scorpio May 5th. And that is also going to be a hybrid that's also going to be a penumbral lunar eclipse. And this will be the last... Am I full of crap? I think this is our last eclipse in Scorpio. Let me check my notes. We may have one more. Might as well talk about it now. And this is one of the weird and trippy ways that the Sabbats connect with each other. Yes. No. This is it. This is the last one, baby. We will have one more eclipse in Taurus in October. So our Taurus business is not quite complete. And this is something that I was talking about before, when I was talking about planting seeds and harvesting things. When we have an eclipse season, the two first eclipses kind of open up the dialogue. And then 6 months later, when we have the next pair of eclipses, because they always come in pairs, we kind of close the dialogue, or we resolve it for now. And then, some months pass, and then we'll have another pair of eclipses, and then kind of stirs some shit up again. So in Beltane season here, we are planting seeds in a variety of ways because we have some really interesting astrology. We have these two eclipses happening in Beltane season that are like, what is the dialogue that we're opening here? What are we doing? The last one was in Aries, so in my mind, technically, that is a part of that Aries energy, Ostara energy, but it was hours before the sun moved into Taurus. So work with that however you want to. But I think that there was something there about really being certain about what it is that we are kicking off this year. I don't know how it's been for all of you out there, but I know for me, this year has had a lot of weird false starts. It has felt like all at the same time. I'm not ready yet, and I gotta hurry up. And why is this taking so long? Oh my God, how are we already here? Like all of those things at the same time. And not ever really feeling like I've found my footing quite yet this year. And that's just how it is some years, right? That's what's up. Um, that's okay. That's okay. It's a pain in the ass, but it's okay. It is what it is, but um but we sort of kicked off Beltane season with these two eclipses, or it did and are going to, because the next eclipse is May 5th, as I mentioned, with our full blood flower moon in Scorpio. I think it's a blood flower moon. It might not actually be. That might be a lie. With the lunar eclipse, I'm like, yeah, sure, you can have the fancy title. It's fine. Um, but uh, full moons give us an opportunity to resolve things. To say this is the climax of this part of the conversation. This is as far as we're going to get with this for now. We kind of have to shelve this and move on to some other things. And so I think it's cool to have our Scorpio full moon in the midst of Beltane season as well, because our Scorpio full moon is really letting us know that whatever it was that we were doing in the dark half of the year, we kind of need to resolve some of that and put that on the shelf a little bit and come into this half of the year and attend to the work of this half of the year and this portion of the year. So, but again, that said, uh, eclipse season. So opening, resolving. Because life is not linear, right? So we've got a little of this going on, a little bit of that going on. But to some extent, whatever it is that we are choosing to do or not do, whatever it is that we're choosing to work on, focus on, put time and energy into now is going to be something that's going to come back up for us in Samhain season, which is the opposing Sabbat for us. Samhain and Beltane are the two opposing Sabbats, and that will also be our Scorpio season when we have the resolution of the eclipse stuff that's going on right now. So work with that how you see fit. Um, just a little bit of other astrology notes for you, leaving this up, but we have some other things going on astrologically in Beltane season this year. And so this is kind of just sort of a very quick overview of the astrology of this season, and kind of a sense of like what all might be the types of things that we need to work on or plant or weed out of the garden before we have stuff going on. During this season, we're going to have Jupiter square Pluto at 0 degrees, Jupiter heading into Taurus, Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and Pluto is sitting at 0 degrees of Aquarius for a really long time, hearkening us back to Imbolc season, if we want to think about it that way. And everything that passes 0 degrees of Taurus this year almost has to like pay the piper It always has to like pay a fee at the toll booth of Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius because everything that passes there squares it. And it's like, meh, and so it's all like almost everybody kind of has to check in with Pluto first to get the blueprint. And, or check their plans or check their list before they go on about their business. And that's kind of an important energy to think about in the midst of Beltane season when we're here to grow and be fecund and be very sensual and fall into the body and feel those things, to also have that Plutonian energy kind of checking the list, right? And asking for some sort of a propitiation or a supplication or a donation of some kind. And so there's something about Beltane and that rite of passage thing here that has like a little bit of a heaviness. I don't want to say ominous because that's always interpreted as something negative. It doesn't have to be negative, but it might be something pretty intense. And so as we move through this season, there might be some intense rites of passage that we get asked to go through this particular year because Pluto is sort of overseeing the gate as everybody walks through that gate into Taurus season, and Beltane. So that's an interesting energy that's in the background there. Also during this season we have a Mercury retrograde. Now Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini, so that's the second half, but it is also retrograde in Taurus this time around. So again, here is a planet connected with Beltane season in one of the two signs connected with Beltane season, doing some interesting stuff. I'm not going to talk about Mercury retrogrades every year, whether it's Beltane or any of the other Sabbats, unless it pertains to the sign or the holiday itself. And it does this year. It did last year too. It was retrograde in Gemini. And so here is another moment of sort of review, checking, slowing down. Another point in our astrology that's like, before we go racing off into the work of this season, check the blueprint, check the fine details, check the fine print, have somebody else look it over, sleep on it for a night, come back to that old thing. And maybe this is about resolving something. Maybe this isn't about specifically starting something new just yet, but it's about resolving old things to be able to clear the space for stuff. And on that note, and hopefully this isn't super confusing, but sorry, or listen along every week of the podcast when I parse this out into granular detail, painstakingly for an hour and a half each week. But for the last several months, we have had a really interesting phenomenon, astronomically and astrologically, which is that the sun moves into a sign, and then hours later, we have the new moon in the same sign. That's not normal. That doesn't normally happen that way. The sun and the moon do all kinds of stuff. Oops, sorry. Sorry, that was probably really loud. The sun moon have all kinds of cool patterns with each other. We don't get this one too often. Sun moves into a sign. Just right on the heels of it, the moon moves into that sign. We have a new moon. So for the last several months, what we've had is sun moves into a sign. Hours later, new moon in the same sign. And then 14, 15 days later, full moon in that sign. And it's had this very nice, like, let's initiate the thing, let's resolve the thing. Oh, here's the new thing, let's initiate the thing, let's resolve the thing. Like, very straightforward. With this lunar cycle, as we leave Ostara season, step into Taurus, Beltane, etc., the lunar cycle is flipping. And so what we're going to have is the sun moves into a sign, days go by, weeks go by, and then we have a full moon. And then 2 weeks later, we have a new moon. And then the sun changes signs. And then we go several days, and then a full moon, and then 2 more weeks, and a new moon, and then the sun immediately changes signs. So in Beltane season, here is another symbol of we may find ourselves needing to resolve a thing first, conclude a thing, get something to a stopping point, then moving into initiating whatever the new thing is going to be, which is generally speaking how we work with our lunar cycle. We initiate a thing, we work on it, we have some challenges, we bring it to some sort of a conclusion, a culminating point, a resolution of a type, and then we make some adjustments again, and then we get ready for whatever the new thing or the new take on the thing is going to be. But we're kind of doing it in the opposite direction now. And so again, Beltane season is sort of carrying through this energy of I need to finish, conclude, resolve, bring to a head, bring to a stopping point this thing, and then initiate the next thing. And that's very Mercury retrograde vibes, right? Let me go backwards before I go forwards. Let me reorganize, recalibrate, resolve, recommit, recommence, recede, rescind, let me undo or let me redo first before I go forward and actually start to cover new ground. Later in Beltane season, we will have, looking through my notes here, I'm not going to talk about that, but in June, we will have Jupiter enter its shadow phase for its retrograde that's going to come later in the year. And we also have Venus enter its shadow phase for its retrograde that's going to happen later in the year. So all of this stuff is happening in Beltane season besides all of our regular shit that we've got going on with the sun and our regular lunar patterns, etc., etc. So, I just kind of wanted to add that in. That's not something that we necessarily talk about in every class or that we talk about every year where I get real granular with the astrology, but there is something about this. And so if that feels frustrating, fair, and or if that feels relieving, right? Cool. And is there a way to look at this as it's okay for me to slow down and take my time with this? Is it okay for me? It is okay for me to ponder. It's okay for me to sit with this for a little while before I launch it into the world, right? Our launch times might not be in April, May. They might be more June, July, that our launch times are. And we might be planting things in this particular solar cycle, this year-long go around the sun, that don't come to fruition in this cycle, right? This whole cycle might be just altogether slowed down a little bit for us. We certainly have indicators of that later in the year. I'm not getting into that in this class. But whatever it is that we are planting now will come to some type of fruition at some point. And so there's something here that's really encouraging us to take our time, check the details, go back over things a few times if we need to, sleep on it. Let me go eat lunch and walk around the block and I'll get back to you. It's very that kind of energy for Beltane this year. I don't know. Is this hitting for anybody? Are you picking up what I'm putting down here, kids? Everything all at once, rinse and repeat. Do it, organize it, redo it. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Everything all at once, but slowly, right? There's this sense of like these Mercury retrograde, the square from Pluto with every single planet that enters Taurus. There is this sense of like, let me just think about this for a second. Let me make sure that I got my shit right. And also Pluto sort of checking over everything for us as well. Okay. So, a little more reading from the book and then we move on. Where the energy of Ostara encourages us to initiate and explore, Beltane wants us to open our petals wide and engage, intensify, and exchange. It wants to make real the possibilities glimpsed last season. This is an earthy season that wants to act on the chaste passions of Ostara. It is a wonderful time to start planting, to start building, constructing in the real world. Something, anything. And Beltane wants to get physical. However you experience sensuality, let yourself submerge in these powerful emotions and feelings. As we move deeper into spring, we begin to transition away from the warrior stance of Aries into the luscious, organic, flowing, relaxed moods of spring. After the initial buzz wears off, begin to refine your trajectory. Instead of thrusting out towards your goals, try switching to beckoning them to you. Beltane is not just about sex and sensuality specifically. It's about the exchange of energies between ourselves and different people, places, ideas, states of being, etc. It's about rubbing up against new and divergent stuff and getting it on you and seeing what that's like. It's pollinating and getting pollinated. As we move into the second half of Beltane and we get some of that excess energy out of our systems, we can get back to the business of being gods and doing cool stuff with a purpose. Check out your horoscope, or your natal chart, I should say, and look at the house that your natal moon is in, as well as what houses Taurus and Scorpio, as well as Gemini and Sagittarius are in. These are areas of life that are going to have some concern for you. So, again, check out your natal chart. Look at where Taurus and Gemini are. Look at where Scorpio and Sagittarius are. And where your natal moon is. And where Taurus and Gemini are in your chart, this is where the sun is traveling. And this is where we're going to have our new moons. Scorpio and Sagittarius, this is where we are going to have our full moons. And Scorpio, this year, we're also going to have our penumbral lunar eclipse there as well. As we talked about on the podcast, generally speaking, eclipses, not a super great time for doing magic, so I would recommend before or after this particular full moon. Leading up to the full moon is going to be production magic, things that we want to increase, things we want to get bigger, to spread, to expand, to turgify. And after the full moon are things that we want to decrease, lessen, impede, hinder, stop, slow down, end, that type of stuff. So cast your magic accordingly. But again, I do not recommend doing ritual on the eclipse. And as I talked about in the podcast, my opinion on that varies from year to year and from eclipse to eclipse. Certain eclipses have some pretty funky energy around them. Some eclipses are not so bad, and it's kind of a like, if you've got the skills, go for it. If you are dabbling in magic or you are new to magical practices, eclipses might be the deeper end of the pool. So your mileage may vary. You have free will. Be careful. But this eclipse, the last eclipse, and then this eclipse, I'm not a fan. Just put on some old reruns, bake some cookies, leave it alone. Save it for the next day. Just not a fan. Okay. So, what else? So much more, honestly. Here are our... Oops, did I put those in the wrong order? I did. There we go. There's our Taurus moon work. And some journaling entries for you for those that full moon that's coming up, and then the new moon afterwards. And then our Gemini moon. We'll have our full moon in Sagittarius, and then our new moon in Gemini. It's like 3 days before summer solstice or something like that. This is what I'm talking about, where like the moon, the sun moves into Gemini May 20th or 21st. And then, yeah, May 21st, the sun enters Gemini. And then we don't have that full moon until June 3rd. And then we have the new moon June 17th. And the sun will move into Cancer like June 20th or June 21st. So it's an interesting pattern. It's an interesting pattern for us to work with this year. All right. Moving on to Ye Old Tarot Helpers. So, these are two of the tarot helpers that we can work with. Here are... Do I have that? No, I don't. Okay, there we go. Here are all of the Taurus, or all of the tarot helpers that we could work with in Taurus and in Gemini on the next slide. These images come from the Smith Waite or Rider Waite deck, tarot deck. Excuse me. And these come from the Builders of the Adytum deck, which is one of my favorite tarot decks of all time. Very, very cool. Paul Foster Case, absolute madman. So what do we get with these characters? Oh wait, these are only two of the tarot helpers. Where are the other ones? There they are. I know what I'm doing. Everybody shut up. So my slides this time, I swear to God, I put them in order and they're like, la la la. Mercury retrograde, just dancing around the edges. Coming to get me. You love Pluto. Be careful with that. It's the owner of the goth club. It's got good drugs though. Okay. So So our tarot helpers for this time of year are the Hierophant and the Empress, as well as, don't look at that, as well as the Lovers and the Magician. Why? Because the Empress connects us to the planet Venus, which is the ruling planet of Taurus, and the Hierophant card connects us to the sign of Taurus. And when we move into Gemini season, the Lovers card is connected to the sign of Gemini, and that is ruled by the planet Mercury, which is connected to the card of the Magician. So these are our major arcana that we are working with at this time of year, and then our minor arcana. As we are moving through Taurus season, we are working with the 5, 6, and 7 of Pentacles. And when we move through Gemini season, we are working with the 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. Who doesn't love to see those cards? So, what's up with this? Well, in my opinion, the major arcana cards are here to give us our archetypal images to work with. They are archetypal entities, archetypal states of being, archetypal energies that we might want to try to invoke for ourselves. And then the minor arcana are depictions of how we might work with that really highfalutin stuff in the mundane world, in our day-to-day life. I have a huge piece on my website about working with the Hierophant and the Empress cards together. I also have 3 separate pieces on working with the 5, the 6, and the 7 of Pentacles. Last year, patrons got a huge piece on working with the 8 of Swords. And this year, they will probably get pieces on the 9 of Swords and the 10 of Swords. The 8 of Swords piece will be available on my website later this year. I'll put it up in May, after the sun enters Gemini. I also have a free class on YouTube. I don't know, there's a link around here somewhere, for the Empress card and working with the Empress at this time of year. There's a spread on there for working with that card. It's a 2-hour lecture. And then if you join my Patreon, I also have a class on the Hierophant? I don't remember now. I know that I absolutely have a class on the Magician, and I may have a class on the Lover's card too, because I've done so many of these I don't remember now. I should probably write that down. Whatever. Reading from the book. Reading from the book. Moving through the energy of spring, we come upon the Empress and the Hierophant. Both figures, while very official, are ultimately concerned with the well-being of the group. Their efforts manifest in the real world with real consequences. The Empress wants us to feel beautiful, lush, and sexy, happy, and fed. And the Hierophant wants to keep us connected to paternal traditions that keep us aligned with the values of the group, marching along in a happy, smoothly functioning society. Their core teachings offer us a doorway into a place where we can hear our inner voice and activate our inner guiding compass by learning from the past and past traditions of teaching, as well as the natural rhythms of nature. But those paradigms can feel very claustrophobic or alienating. What if we have problems with traditional forms of order and trust issues around old structures of power? What if we don't feel like we have access to the lush beauty and body-centric reality that seems to relegate to the realms of the beautiful people? What if our bodies or souls' rhythms don't seem to match our peers? The politics of the body and the politics of social hierarchy can feel like a dividing force, and it strikes at the core of our feelings of self-worth. In this season, we will be asked to play several parts in a story about inclusion, exclusion, and the karma created around these interactions. Sit with it. Feel in yourself who and what wants attention. Consider what you get out of life when you feed and build with these various selves, or when you don't. Listen to what your heart has to say about worthiness, about exclusion, and about feeling excluded. Where do we allow traditional thinking to conform us, and when is that okay, and when is it not? Can we see the nature of the things we have built in our lives? What is true success or victory in our lives? At the heart of it all, we must have a passionate yearning for the thing, or it won't matter. Because we will end up with swords in our back. No, I'm kidding. It's witchcraft, people. You knew it was going to be dangerous. Look, I don't want to hear any crying. This might seem like a really wild set of cards to represent the end of spring and our, bridge that we cross over into summer. And it kind of is. And in a nutshell, we have these characters here that are overseeing us being here on the physical plane and like starting to do things and manifest stuff and make stuff happen. And as we can see from the 5, 6, and 7 of Pentacles, there's highs and lows to those decisions. And there's highs and lows to getting involved in those activities. But Taurus season ultimately leaves us with the 7 of Pentacles, where we seem to be in clothing that's in relatively good repair. We seem like we're not bandaged like we are in the 5 of Pentacles, right? We're walking on crutches and we got bandages on our heads. Things are hard, right? In the 6 of Pentacles, we've got patches on our clothes. We've still got a bandage on our head. Like, stuff is still a little bit rough, but by the time we get to the 7 of Pentacles, things seem to have improved, or at the very least, the worst elements seem to have gone away. And we have a moment in the 7 of Pentacles where I guess the best way that I can describe what the 7 of Pentacles feels like is the shift from scarcity mindset into abundance mindset. And that is a shift that's very difficult to make if that's not actually happening for you. So there's something about the Seven of Pentacles where our situation in the mundane world has shifted enough that we actually feel like we have space and safety enough to be hopeful about things. And then we're followed up by the Eight of Swords, the Nine of Swords, and the Ten of Swords. Oh shit. That's because it's Gemini season and they overthink everything. I don't know what to tell you. No. Geminis, calm down, relax. What is happening is this is the first time, not really, but right, it's spring. So it's the first time. It's the first time in this go around. It's the first time in this solar cycle that we're in this portion of the wheel. It's the first time that we start to get feedback from the physical world on our initial efforts, right? In Aries season, we have a vision. In Taurus is like, well, I'm going to act on it. And then in Gemini, it's like, oh shit, I acted on it. Whoa, right? And the overwhelm is embodied in the Eight of Swords. And that overwhelm might be, oh my God, this is not panning out anywhere near as much as I thought it would. Oh no, what do I do? The overwhelm might be, oh my God, this is blowing up 10 times bigger than I thought it was going to. Oh my God, what do I do? Either way, we're like, bah, like we don't know what to do with it. And what's really important is as we're experiencing this overwhelm, as we're experiencing whatever fears or fantasies or whatever it is that's coming up for us in response to getting this response from the physical plane on our efforts, we are the only person that is in the Eight of Swords card. We're the only person here, so we are already tripping and like nothing's happened yet. We haven't even like left the house yet. We haven't even like gotten into the thing yet. And I think that that speaks a little bit also to this astro weather that we're having in this particular Beltane. That sense of like, oh my God, I'm already thinking like 15 steps ahead and I'm still literally at home. Like the castle that we see in the background of the Eight of Swords card is the castle that we are standing in the Two of Wands. Take that trip, right? That's how far we've gotten. We're literally on the tide flats in front of our own castle. We're like, I'm losing it, man. Like, right? And so then in the Nine of Swords, we're like, why did I buy all these swords? What am I going to do with these swords? We really start to get caught up in our own thoughts. And and in the Ten of Swords, we feel a little frozen. And at the same time, we know that it's time for us to change shape. We either need to back it up into the process a little bit and go over some steps, or we need to recommit to a new suit, or we need to double down and go to the bonus round and hit the court cards after we leave that 10. So in Gemini season, there is a little bit of like, oh wow, I'm at the crossroads. Which direction do I go? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with my options. Oh my gosh. And that's appropriate for Beltane season. That's appropriate for Beltane season, is to feel whew about it all. Okay. So our ritual forms for Beltane: running between two bonfires or jumping over a fire, hanging a rowan branch from your door. There's Rowan. It's got to be Rowan. Burning a wicker man, wandering through nature, washing in or scrying in May morning dew, going a-maying, playing games and tricks, dressing in bright colors, leaving flowers, sex and sensuality, especially near your plants or garden. So yes, go horrify or delight your neighbors and go hump in the garden. It's time. It's the season for it. I did have some other slides for you guys with this stuff, but it's just fire and wicker men. I think you get it. But I do have a few other little things for you here. So these are all forms of protection, cleansing, shape changing as we get ready to pass through the gates of initiation. But also play and pleasure and fun, which are at the core of Beltane, is really to be delighting in the five senses, delighting in the world, delighting in making things and doing things and making things be here in the physical plane. That's the big push of this season. Symbols that we might work with in our magic, journaling, altar building, spellcrafting, what have you. Maypoles, flowers, bonfires, wicker man, genitals, twins, couples. Food and drink, oatmeal cakes, very appropriate. Flowers, honey, almonds, seeds, lentils. Plant helpers, myrtle, cypress, rose, apple, clover, orchid, daisy, rowan, woodruff, mallow. Animal helpers, obviously all of our bull, cow, boar, bison types, buffaloes, oxen, aurochs, all of that. And then also doves, camels, goats, horses, salmon. I don't know why I don't have it on here, but salmon is also very appropriate. And twins, very appropriate. Mineral helpers, copper, rose quartz, and emerald definitely are going to be the top three for dialing us into Taurus vibes. And glass, chrysoprase, and salt, oddly enough, all really great for dialing into Gemini vibes. Citrine also really great for that. Incense and oils, lilac, frankincense, storax, patchouli, rose, geranium, musk, amber, myrrh. All of these are connected to either Taurus or Gemini or both. Certainly a very short list of plants and scents connected to both of those signs. And some meditations. Actually, I'm going to pause us here and come to here. And I'm going to read just a little bit more for you. Some notes on the Bull of Heaven. The constellation Taurus is huge and may have reached all the way back to Pisces at one point in history. We know humans have been working with this constellation for over 6,000 years, as it marked the vernal equinox from approximately 4300 BCE to 2000 BCE. But it's not the oldest record of humans venerating this creature. The earliest evidence we have so far, as of 2023 CE, the earliest evidence we have so far of bull worship is at the famous archaeological site, Katulhayuk, you guys hear me talk about it all the time, in eastern Anatolia in Turkey from approximately 9,000 years ago. Great sets of horns are embedded in fire pits, and massive red bulls are painted on the walls. Often called the Bull of Heaven, sacred bull deities are both solar and lunar in various cultures. The word Ka in Egyptian means both life force and bull. Apis was an Egyptian bull god, the son of Hathor, and was sacrificed and reborn yearly and became a go-between for humans and other deities. Crete had their renowned bull dances. Some more Hathor. Hathor. Bad bitch. Crete had their renowned bull dances with players grasping the bull's horns and leaping over them, and Minoa had their infamous minotaur skulking in his labyrinth. Shiva has Nandi, the sacred bull, as his chariot or wagon and protector. The name Nandi comes from the Tandil word Nandu, which means to flourish, to appear, or to grow. And remember our little sprouty symbol that we use for Beltane, to appear or grow. In Sanskrit, Nandi means joy, happiness, and fulfillment. In Hebrew, ox is represented by the first letter in the alphabet, Aleph. It is one of the four creatures depicted as the archangels that sort of hold up the ceiling of heaven, representing earth. Zeus also had a white bull. White, definitely a thing here. White buffaloes are revered as sacred omens of great change by many North American tribes, Catholics as well, also the Lakota and Plains Indians. White buffalo calf woman will come during a famine 7 sacred rites to raise up Lakotas come from her. Moses of the Old Testament, who was often depicted with ram's horns, the astrological sign immediately preceding Taurus, specifically forbade the worship of golden calves, which the locals seem to be fond of. So there's literally Moses as a representation of the new Aeon, Aries, with his ram's horns, saying, we don't worship cows anymore. We don't worship Tauruses anymore. Get that out of here. That was the old epoch. I'm the new epoch. You worship me and my symbols. There was a Syrian deity named Baal, who was a bull god who ruled over the sky, lightning, and fertility. Baal, or Bel, was also a title that meant owner, or lord, or master. But many gods of this time and region had the prefix Baal or Bel, like Baal Shamin, a sky deity, and Baal Haman, a weather god who oversaw vegetation and was connected to the Egyptian Amun, or Baal Karnin, the two-horned god. He had a temple that stood at Palmyra in Syria until the terrorist group ISIL destroyed it in 2015. And there has been some efforts to rebuild this. Some stuff that was thought thoroughly destroyed has been found to not have been entirely destroyed, but still, this was a UNESCO heritage site, and it was destroyed by that terrorist group. Moloch, everybody's favorite, huh? Conspiracy theories, let's go. Moloch, Canaan, was another famous bull god. His name relates to a few interesting words like the Hebrew milk, and the Akkadian Malku, which both means king. It's also connected to the names like Malcolm and Melkart and Malkuth, the world in Kabbalistic astrology, or magic. Kayutha is the cosmic bull in medieval Islamic cosmology. It is said to carry on its back the angel who shoulders the earth and the rock platforms upon which the angel stands. The bull is said to stand on the giant fish or whale, Bahamut, which of course is Tiamat, who we talk about quite a bit at Ostara season, being the fish deity. So we have a fish deity, we have an Aries deity, a ram deity, who we're not talking about, and then we have a bull deity. Again, just totally coincidence, I'm sure, right? As we like to say here on the channel. One significant feature that is nearly universal is that these creatures are depicted as stark white or shining, and many myths surround a white bull, a buffalo, or a white cow. And so here I have for you Aleph in a bunch of different regional letters, and look at, or regional languages, and look at how many or how much similarity there is to this shape as well as to the shape of Taurus. I'm going to scooch us forward again. Bear with me. There we go. Boom. That. And just as it's a trip to me. I don't know. There's similarity there. I think that letter and this constellation look very similar. And, especially so when we consider the variations of it there. The plow moving into the earth. All right. So last but not least, meditations. You can utilize these in your ritual, if you want to write these down as journaling entries and work with them throughout the season, whatever makes sense for you. How can you bring more pleasure into your life? And I think that is possibly a really challenging thing for some of us to think about. What I would challenge you with, if that sentence feels challenging for you, first off, let me say this. Take what works for you, leave what doesn't. If you would like my challenge, it's this. How many different ways can you define the word pleasure? And perhaps that sentence might be easier to work with, or that journaling prompt might be easier to work with. I'll just say that. How does sexuality contribute to your vitality? Does it? uh, I would argue that it probably does for most people, but it might not do it in really overt ways for you. It might be something that is more subtle, or maybe it is something that's really overt for you. But this is the part of the wheel where it's appropriate for us to come into the body, think about that stuff, talk about that stuff with ourselves and other people if we choose to, if they want to hear about it. Think on the things that bring beauty into your life and how you bring beauty into the world. Describe 5 things about yourself that are unique or beautiful. And again, this is another one that may feel challenging, and I appreciate that. If this does not work for you, don't work with it. If you want the challenge, if you're like, this doesn't work for me, but I want to try, this is another one where I suggest how many different ways can you define the word beauty? What are all the different ways that we might interpret what that word means or could stand for? Then try the journaling entry and see if it isn't making more sense for you. And when you hear the phrase, the dance of life, what does that bring up for you? Generally, pretty straightforward. Let me say this. What the fuck? I can't, I literally, like, legitimately, I almost can't fit all the names on here now. Can you read it? Can you even see what it says? I'm like, haha, what is happening? You people have lost your minds. I don't know what else to say other than thank you. Or also, this is your fault. I don't know, however you want to interpret that. Holy crap. As of today, I think I have 84 patrons, and that's really incredible to me. So thank you very much. The highs are high and the lows are low in 2023. So it's very wild to have that stuff going on and then also that stuff going on. You're like, what? Really? Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. All in all, TLDR, what the fuck is this holiday about? It's about humping. It's about the sacred knocking of boots. It is about healthy, lusty, thrusty. With yourself, with another person, with several other people, with the environment, with data, with food, with a beautiful couch, with artwork, with amazing music, whatever. You know what sex and sensuality means for you. That is where I want you to start that conversation. I don't want you to do anything that doesn't feel right for you in this season. But whatever those words mean for you, I want you to start there with your conversation with yourself. If you are curious about engaging in any of that kind of stuff and mushing it into your sexual or your magical practice, this is the season for doing that, for experimenting with that and seeing what that's like. Move in perfect love and perfect trust, as a lot of pagans say, meaning move in environments where you can have perfect love and perfect trust. Move with people where you can have perfect love and perfect trust. That might mean more casual environments than what you initially were hoping for. That might mean less people are involved than what you were initially hoping for, including maybe just you, right? Maybe it's just one person. But start where it feels right to start, but start. This is if you haven't come into the physical world yet, if you feel like you still have tendrils of yourself drifting in the underworld journey, in the winter journey, this is the time to either bring that stuff into the now or cut it off and move forward into the physical plane, the overworld journey, the solar half of the year. Come into the body, be curious about things, but now we can start to be curious about slightly more mature things that are appropriate for us, passing through those gates of deeper initiation and finding the people, the places, and the things that we want to rub up against and create a spark in the world. And then at some point, we're going to shift in that energy and begin to find the people and the places and the things that we have a synergy with, that we have a synchronicity with. And then we are going to test ourselves against that, run with it, partner with it, twin with it, that sort of thing. So I hope that this Beltane season is amazing for you. I hope it's productive. I hope it's stabilizing for you. I hope that you embrace some of the wacky ass visions that you had in Ostara season and Aries season, and you genuinely try to manifest some wild ass bullshit this year. We really need it. And shit is so unhinged and completely off the rails these days. Why not just whip out some radical ass witchcraft? Why not? Let's just do it. Like, who's stopping us at this point? We've already established there's no adults. So I say don the wizard hat, jump on your brooms, and let's go scare the neighbors. Like, let's go freak some people out with love, of course, with love, right? and fire and mead probably. But this is it. This is the time to come out of the abstract, come out of just the intellectual realms, come out of the psychological projections, and come into the body. It's time to embody and be in the skin of that stuff that we've been talking about and see how that feels and see what it does for us. All right. I will see you soon enough. Don't forget your weekly podcast as well, to keep up with this. Again, if you are wanting more... Oh, yeah. Why didn't I say this before? Because I'm loopy. That's why. This time, I have made the book for sale by itself. It is down in the description where you can download... For $7, you can download the book for Beltane. If you want to join Patreon, you'll get the book and the calendar and digital downloads and all of that other stuff at $9 and up. At $23 and up on my Patreon, you will have an opportunity to get readings with me throughout the year for more personal guidance on this stuff. And I guess I could put that up too. I do astrology readings. I do tarot readings. So book with me. Join the Patreon. We do Tarot Circle once a month, which is really fun. And I've got my weekly podcast. I'm on all the socials, blah, blah, blah. All that good stuff. So that's it, my horny heathens. Go out there, be weird, get vigorous and enthusiastic consent, and then just go ham, because this is absolutely the season for it. Wear a mask, wear a condom, wear gloves. It's still 2023, but but get in there, kids. Get in there. Get in the dirt. All right, my friends. Yes, and that's it. That's our class. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. And before I forget, one more time, we have our discount code from our friends at Sea Witch Botanicals, incense sprays, body care stuff. They do the works. Very cool kids. That discount code is Spin the Wheel, all one word, all caps, SPINTHEWHEEL, Spin the Wheel, 523. With a $10 purchase, you will get a free pack of Beltane incense. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Blessed be. Take care of yourselves out there in the hinterlands. It's a wild ride. If you've got questions, comments, I'll hang out here for just a couple of seconds. I know that we've been here for over 2 hours, so I get it if you have to go. I understand it's been a lot. But I will hang out for a few moments if anybody has any questions or comments. And then we will call it. There's a little bit of a delay on the live stream, so I'll wait for a few moments. I'll put back up a slide. You know what? I'm going to put up the sky slide unless somebody wants to see something different. Yay. Thank you, Nova. Thank you, Seven Seas. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Patty. Thank you to everybody who shows up this time and every time. You wacky bastards. All right. Nobody's jumping in. I'm going to wait a couple more seconds, but I have a feeling that nobody has any comments or questions. So, unless you guys are taking your time to type, maybe I should wait a little longer. Again, Aries rising. I'm so impatient. I'm like, it's been 2 seconds. Why is this taking so long? What's the damn problem? All right, babies. If you were in the midst of typing a question and I close the window, I apologize. Send me an email or leave a comment on Patreon and let's talk about it. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Blessed be. Happy Beltane. Enthusiastic consent. And then go for it. I'm telling you. All right, my loves. Mwah. Bye.